Hi everyone, welcome to Reducing Plastic Use, Improving the Health of All God's Creation. First of all, please note that the acronym MP will be used throughout the presentation as a shorthand version of microplastic. This presentation will address what microplastics are and briefly explore where they come from, where they are found, and what we can do about them. First of all, what are they? They're plastic particles ranging in size from 1 nanometer to 5 millimeters that contain chemical and or other additives. They come from consumer products, primary and or direct point source, and or the breakdown of larger plastics, secondary and or in non-direct point sources that we will talk about later. They're found everywhere. They're in drinking water, the human body, food, air, soil, and in water, to name a few places. So here's a little bit about microplastic size. As mentioned in the definition, MPs can range from 1 nanometer to up to 5 millimeters. This is a figure from Chapter 1 of the ITRC Microplastics Guidance document. The largest MP particle size is smaller than 5 millimeters, which is the approximate diameter of a drinking straw. The smallest MP particle size is 1 nanometer, which is smaller than a strand of DNA. So what do we know about microplastics? First of all, they're ubiquitous. They're found in surface waters, drinking water, air, and even the food humans consume. They accumulate and persist long-term in the environment, and they can move long distances in the environment. They can also contain harmful chemical contaminants and additives that can move along with them in the environment. Because of their small size, MPs can be consumed by humans, and some other organisms can confuse them with food, depending on their shape and color. They can also cause adverse health impacts for organisms that are exposed to them, including humans. This illustration is the conceptual site model for microplastics used in the online ITRC guidance document. It's an interactive figure with pop-ups that provide information about various sources and mechanisms of microplastic transport. In this set of slides, we'll use the CSM as we talk through examples. First of all, due to the ubiquitous nature of microplastics, non-point sources are especially problematic. Where there are broad areas of many sources that distribute microplastics into the environment, they can cause pollution. Microplastics can originate in one area and be transported to another by water or air, and beaches are an example of non-point sources. Litter may be spread along a beach and wash up or be transported by wind to other areas. Residential and neighborhood can be non-profit sources as household products are used and discarded. Every habitat and organism is exposed to microplastics. This diagram generalizes how MPs in the environment expose animals and humans. Humans can be exposed through inhalation and ingestion of contaminated water or food, both through trophic transfer, that is, eating animals that have eaten MPs, or ingestion of crops grown in soils containing microplastics. MPs have been found in human lungs, blood, placenta, breast milk, and heart tissue. However, the impacts on the human body are still up for study. We have a few studies we're looking at that highlight some problems, and they've also been shown to have adverse effects on animals through determining toxicity to organisms can be difficult. So here's a little bit about microplastics and human issues. First of all, Plastics are a threat to human health in various ways. There was actually an article in our local paper about this just this last week, and I will share that with you a little bit later. First of all, one of the well-known plastics, BPA, is used to make billions of plastic beverage containers and can both decrease or increase endocrine activity in humans and cause adverse health effects. BPA is also able to be absorbed by fat tissue and it's associated with increased risk of breast cancer. And of course, breast milk of most women in the developed world contains dozens of compounds, including BPA. Some animal studies have also indicated adverse effects of BPA in newborns and fetuses. And importantly, the label BPA-free on a container doesn't mean a product is free from other harmful chemical compounds. And there's a growing literature that links many phthalates, a group of chemicals used to make plastics more flexible and harder to break, with a variety of adverse outcomes, including weight gain and insulin resistance, etc., as you can see on this slide. When food is wrapped in plastic containing BPA, phthalates may leak into the food. So any migration is likely to be greater when in contact with fatty foods, such as meats and cheeses, than with other food. So it's not recommended to heat food in plastic containers, and we'll look more about some of the things we can do to improve our health by avoiding these microplastics later. So here's just a few things that microplastics have been linked to. They've been linked to heart attack and stroke, and there's a study from Science America and also one from Nature magazine that backs this up. And I'll share this slideshow with you later so you can have a look at some of this. So one study saw, for example, that more than 200 people undergoing a surgery found that nearly 60% had microplastics or even smaller nanoplastics in their main arteries. And those who did were 4.5 times more likely to experience a heart attack, a stroke, or death. They're also possibly connected with different kinds of cancer. And so there have been some studies about this. This is from Molecular Cancer, a journal, volume 24. And I will also share this with you so you can kind of see some of the ways that microplastics and nanomicroplastics might impact our epidemiologic issues. These studies reveal a possible correlation between microplastic exposure and cancer, but at this point we don't know what the specific mechanisms are. So it needs to be further investigated. With all of this in mind, though, it's really hard to avoid microplastics, but here are some easy ways to do it. First off, don't drink from plastic water bottles. In a recent scientific paper, physicians reported that switching from bottled water to filtered tap water could cut microplastic intake by about 90%. That's a big deal. So it's a really easy thing to do. Just switch to tap water, filtered tap water. You can even use a stainless steel water bottle, put it in there, and that'll really, as you can see, massively reduce your microplastic consumption. Another thing you can do is choose the right tea bags. If you drink tea, steeping your tea with non-plastic tea bags is going to be much more helpful for you. The plastic tea bags at the brewing temperature, as they say, 203 degrees Fahrenheit, it releases about 11.6 billion microplastics and 3.1 billion nanoplastics into each cup of tea. That's ridiculously high. So, of course, to avoid that, you want to steep your tea in paper bags or loose leaf bags. And I actually have some Celestial Season bags to share with you. I do also have some examples of bags that are considered plastic free that I can share with you. Republic of Tea is one. Yogai Tea is one. Bigelow, Lipton Quality Black or Intense Quality Tea Bags. Twinings, Uncle Lee, and of course Celestial Seasonings. These all are examples of paper bags. Obviously, you can also use loose leaf tea bags. One of the things they found too was that if you do use a paper tea bag, it actually can work sort of as a filter that will filter out any microplastics that are in the water. It's very interesting. Another easy thing you can do is to avoid using plastic cutting boards. Use wood or metal cutting boards instead. Never microwave plastic containers. I mean, this is a big one too. It says that microwaving plastic food containers can release massive numbers of plastic particles, more than 2 billion nanoplastics and 4 million microplastics per square centimeter of container within 3 minutes of microwave heating. So, use a glass container instead. It's pretty easy to do, and you can really easily avoid those microplastics that way. So those 4 ways are really easy to do. There's some things that the federal government's doing, that the European Union is doing, and the UN is doing to help us avoid microplastics. But just by drinking your water from tap filtered water in metal instead of plastic, or in a glass, using tea bags that are not plastic but are paper, using a non-plastic cutting board, and then cooking your food not in the microwave in something that's non-plastic, that would primarily be glass. Those are really easy ways to avoid the issues that are related to plastic, and hopefully those will all work for you. Thank you.